we're wired for change. And like you said, in nearly every area of our lives, what people really actually resist is the loss of control. Welcome to Leading Without the BS. Unfiltered, unapologetic, unstoppable performance. Today we're talking about
how to lead when things are constantly shifting. This will be episode 5 in our podcast.
Constant change, control, losing control.
These never come up as issues. I don't know what you're talking about. This sounds like it's out of left field.
Yeah. I mean, this might not be happening for you at all. You're working with many leaders, different organizations. How often are they talking about this in their sessions with you where they're feeling like it's constant change that they're working through?
Oh, man. Probably every week. And what's funny is anymore, if there's a team who says something like, we haven't had any change in a while. Like if that comes up somewhere in the conversation, I'll tell them, well, buckle up, cowboy, because it's probably coming pretty fast. So now they get to start to prepare themselves for those.
That's actually fascinating because I don't recall hearing that at all with the leaders that I've been working with for the last several years, is that things have not changed.
Yeah, and that comment actually came from I was working with a particular group who said they were in the middle of change, and I said, well, when was the last time you had change of this nature or this level? And then they stopped and they thought, and a couple people said, gosh, it has to have been 8 or 9 years. And I said, okay, well, if you were to go before that, what was the average time cycle between changes like this? And they would go 3 years. I said, oh, well, then you're heavily overdue. So now we're getting back to the mean. So It's not often that happens.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, especially with who we work with, working with entrepreneurs, business leaders who act like entrepreneurs, who are scaling, growing, tackling more complex challenges. This is the name of the game, really.
Yeah, and it's cool because it can be any one thing or a combination of things in terms of the business itself may be changing. Hell, we've got that at Wingspan. We've got 2 people who started on Monday. We're adjusting.
We have this podcast and we're learning so much. It's all, yeah. I'm using the language. It's all so different. It's all well, hopefully we're getting our shit together, people, and our audio and what you're hearing is better than what it's been in our initial episodes.
Yes, this has been quite the learning curve, and things are changing here. We have some different setups. We will probably have different setups in the future as we get other people to come help. So
yes.
Yeah. So the business can be changing. It can be the customers are changing. It can be the regulatory environment is changing. It can be our suppliers or what we're producing where is changing. There's this crazy thing apparently out there called like tariffs. That seems to be a deal. That those can be changing, and it's something that when leaders stop, and heck, anyone stops and just thinks about their own life, we're almost always experiencing some level of change, either at a really small level or sometimes at a bigger level.
Oh, for sure. In fact, a lot of leaders, when I first say this to them, they they look at me funny and they're a bit skeptical, though I will tell them that people are not resistant to change.
Say more.
That's something we hear a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, people are resistant to change. People are not resistant to change. We're biologically, physiologically, neurologically, we're wired for change. And like you said, in nearly every area of our lives, like, why do people go to school? Why do you want your children to go to school? Why do you get married? Why do you, like, all of these choices that we make in our lives, it's for change. It's ultimately for change. And so what people really actually resist is the loss of control. And so that is that's a fundamental perspective as we work with leaders in the Wingspan system, is this focus on control and perceived control, healthy control, and where we have it and where we don't.
I like that shift. While we're also wired for change, we're also biologically wired to create patterns for ourselves. And that's where, for anyone listening, and I know for you and I, it's certainly, we come in the house, we put our keys in the same place, we hang up our jacket in the same place, we put this in the same place. so that we're not the next time going, where the heck are my keys? And now we're not working to remember, where did I leave my keys? Because that requires so much energy for our brain. So we are pattern seeking, pattern creating mammals. And when we recognize that that is going to be shifting in some way, it can feel like a loss of control.
And I like what you said earlier about where the change is coming from. And so whether the change is quote unquote coming from something outside of you, out in the market, sometimes, other people are quote unquote in control of those decisions, and that's where the change is coming from. A lot of the leaders that we're working with are the ones in charge of change. And so they are the ones disrupting things, and continuing to be the catalyst for change. And even then, whether you're the one in charge of the change and it's coming from you, or it's coming, the catalyst is outside of you, there's challenges that come along with it. And often, at least at the pace of the leaders we work with, it gets overwhelming.
Yeah. Yeah. And what you said just reminded me of this concept of we're all consistently choosing. We can choose to make this change. We can choose to make some other changes. We can choose to not change. We're still choosing. And then that's going to have cost and impacts for us and the business and our team members on down the line.
Yeah, for sure.
So in some of your conversations with leaders where they're not having a great response to change, what are some things that come up?
The common one that's happening, whether it's the leader directly who's speaking with me, or they're speaking about their team, is what are those? It's the tendency to jump straight to absolutes. Everything is changing. Nothing is staying the same. The always, no one, never. Those absolutes come up. And because that's how it feels. So that comes up. Though what happens is when a leader, so let's say I'm thinking of a situation the last couple of weeks, someone specifically, let's say that Sam is saying that they're encountering yet again a restructuring, a reorganization. And he's feeling like overwhelmed, frustrated. And so when he has the habit of using that language, that it's everything and always and no one and never, he's accidentally exacerbating the feelings of overwhelm and stress, simply by dropping down into the habit of going to those absolute phrases.
Yeah, and what we're talking about, it sounds like, is where that overlap is between the stress zone and autopilot, where people they can feel like they're triggered or they're really high intensity, and then they pop down to this autopilot language of extreme. So for anyone listening or watching this, that can be a great flag for yourself, as if you're talking to a team member and they're saying always or never or everyone or no one. Those kinds of pieces you just hit on can be an indicator that, this person may not be operating in the performance zone. They might be operating from stress or autopilot or even the overlap.
Yeah, highly likely operating from stress. Because, as a refresher, even though we've covered this in other episodes, in any moment, depending on where you as a human are at, if you are currently perceiving the challenge to far outweigh your perceived ability, you're gonna go into your stress zone. And so that's when we are reacting instead of thoughtfully responding. It's counterproductive in terms of our thinking, our communication, and behaviors. Now, on the flip side of that, anytime that we're in a situation or in a moment where we're perceiving our ability to be very, very high and the challenge to be little to nothing, we're going to be in autopilot. And that's what Ivan was just describing. Well, anytime a person is in acute stress and or an extended period where they're in their stress zone, they're definitely going to fall back to those habits or coping mechanisms that they have used before to deal with that stress. And so that's what I've been saying is there's this overlap of stress zone and autopilot zone where we're highly stressed, yet we fall back into those old habits.
Yeah, the way I'll describe that to a lot of leaders I work with is, I'll say it's like a circuit breaker in your brain. And the scenario I'll describe is, think about a situation where you're super pissed off or frustrated, or you have this really high intensity and you're just on fire about it. And then 30 seconds later, you're like, fuck it, whatever. We'll figure it out. And and I say, if you go from that 12 to that 0 or 1 or -1 level of intensity, I said, when it happens that fast, that's not because you've logically solved it in your brain. It's because your brain has gone, oh my gosh, if I don't shut this down, like, I'm going to pop. And so it's a way to just bring it down very quickly without it being really effective, though. And then to your point, that's when it goes into the autopilot patterns and behaviors that people can bring to the table.
Yeah. That's, by the way, that's me. That'll typically be in a couple of different ways. So sometimes I can be up in my stress zone, really, really stressed out. Also, I'm more internal with all that energy and intensity. I'm more internal. You're more external.
Oh, yeah.
when you're in your stress zone. So internally, I'll have this mounting, and then it starts to bubble over because I'm so stressed out, and then my body will almost want to like go just fall asleep.
Wow.
It's weird because I can be so stressed out about something, and I just want to lay down and take a nap.
Wow. See, I am so far the opposite, that when I get that stressed, especially, this is where I'll run into it if I think of something in the middle of the night and I'm going, oh my gosh, I've got this thing I want to do, or this isn't done, or so-and-so is waiting on such and such. And there's times where I'm like, I'm just going to get up and go do this right now so that I can start to execute and knock it out and reduce that intensity. So it's always, it's interesting how different people have such different responses.
Well, and it depends. I mean, I'm that as well. So 2 of the mornings this past week, I was up between 2:30 and 3 a.m. and I ended up just getting up because my mind was going. So though it's different, though. I guess I'm screwed up in all of those ways because I will also get really frustrated. Again, I can be internal with it, so I can get really angry. I've got a long fuse, but then when I finally get angry, I'll absolutely flip over to the fuck it and just check out, walk away.
Yeah, it's interesting that you have that long fuse as things are changing or whatever else it is, whatever the situation is, and then you go high. I have more of a pattern of going high faster and coming in hot or being really directive or getting loud. Definitely impatient when I've got that. Oh my gosh, we've got this new situation to work through. Let's get in and figure this out. And that's too much intensity in those situations to oftentimes support not just me, also a team in getting something done.
Oh, for sure. Though that's what's really powerful when we are working with teams in the early stages, when we're working with leaders and their teams, and we do the performance mapping exercise. It's so powerful when, first and foremost, each individual is identifying when they go up in the stress zone, how often they're there. What are the triggers for them to go into their stress zone? When are they in autopilot? And then they share that with their other team members. Just like you were saying, if someone isn't going through that exercise, so listeners, the way for you to start to identify where your team members are at, including yourself, is paying attention to their language. Yeah. And that is listening for those absolutes. Literally, one of the team members that I worked with years ago, he was director in finance. He would literally say, "Rome is burning," and I would tell him, I'm going to give him a different name. I would tell him, "George, first of all, when you say that, you sound so out of control. Like, you sound dramatic, you sound out of control. And by the way, there might be really good reasons that, like the facts behind your feelings.
Sure.
because you're not saying the facts and you're jumping to literally saying Rome is burning, can't you see Rome is burning, then his fellow business leaders would just discount, and they came to they started to ignore what he was saying.
Wow.
Because he was so dramatic in that language. And that's one of the costs that happens when leaders are feeling out of control.
Or the leaders or their team members.
Or their team members.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean them or their other leaders, their team members.
Gotcha.
And so when any one of us are feeling the constant change is overwhelming, it's stressful, and you're feeling out of control, you're going to lose some of the people around you. Your effectiveness in your influence, and certainly how you're supporting a team, whether that's a cross-functional team or direct reports, doesn't matter. Your effectiveness drops dramatically.
Yeah. As you say that, what comes to my brain, in addition to how true that is that the other end of the spectrum can be just as problematic, where there is change, team members come to the leader and say, oh my gosh, we got these changes, I'm not so sure, and the leader's like, everything's fine, no big deal. And for that team member, it can feel like, dude, you're not living my reality, or you don't see it. Or even worse, sometimes they may say, man, you don't care.
Yes, a common problem where those leaders, so we work with lots of, just like you, leaders with military background, leaders who have grown up working in high pressure situations, high stakes. And so one of the strengths that y'all develop are staying cool under pressure. And it is a strength until you've developed it as a habit. And then exactly what you're talking about is quite common for a lot of those leaders. And then, of course, what's happening within their teams is they are overly composed. And how many times have leaders been surprised because being calm under pressure, that's how you're a good leader. No. And so when you tell people, when you help them recognize you're actually overly composed and it's counterproductive, what are some of their responses?
What?
Yeah.
That's the first, what the hell are you talking about? This is a great thing that I'm like, they're so surprised. Or they'll say, well, I've been told to make sure that, and I'm going to paraphrase, been told to make sure that I'm a professional or I'm appropriate.
Yeah. Yes.
And it's like, whew, buddy, what a couple of broad, almost meaningless labels.
Yeah. Well, it's, again, it goes back to a lot of that bullshit training that leaders and managers have had for years.
Yeah.
Like the staying calm under pressure, or even worse than that is staying positive.
Oh, jeez.
Under pressure, or when the shit's hitting the fan, staying positive.
And pretending like it's not shit that's flying all over the room.
Yeah. Or pretending Rome is not burning.
Yes.
And how damaging that is, unknowingly, in so many different ways within the team, as well as the credibility of that leader.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. So we've hit on these ends of the spectrum of people are over intensity, they're over describing the situation, being extreme and dramatic with their language. Mm-hmm. We've hit the other end of they're under connecting, or they're failing to really describe the situation for what it is or how impactful it can be.
Well, yes. And then the third one. So they're again overly composed, they're super calm, mm-hmm. and then the people around them are like, does he not freaking get it? Like, is he paying attention to what is actually happening? And then there's the third one, which again, a lot of managers and leaders do this because they were trained to do this, and that's to be appropriate or put the positive spin on it. And leaders just smell when something's off. And yet, again, good intentions for a lot of those individuals, except absolutely working against them. It's costing them big time.
Yeah, it's right as you said that, I had a flashback to when I was an executive officer in a line infantry company back when I was in the Army. And I remember the company commander would come into my office and he would go, well, Ivan, you're not going to like this shit. And I was just, okay, sir, I'm seated. What you got? And so he wouldn't spin it. He wouldn't pretend like it wasn't a messy, crappy situation. He would just shoot straight. And I had so much respect for him that he wouldn't pretend or put this BS spin on it. He was a really honest guy. And I just had that flashback when you said that. I was like, man, that wasn't exactly the kind of honesty and the kind of let's connect with the real situation that helped me go, okay, this guy gets it. He's not out in left field. He friggin' gets it.
Yeah, and for sure. And that of course is some of the support that we offer to leaders, and we're offering to you here is even while you're feeling that way, your emotions, first of all, have critical information. And so if you're angry, if you're frustrated, stop covering it up. Stop ignoring it. Also, if you've got the habits of the go to extremes, okay, that's a whole different issue that you'll want to put some attention on. And stop putting the smiley face sticker and the rainbows and unicorns on it. And instead, really start to honor the fact that you're angry or you're frustrated, because your frustration has that information, critical information. And so if you can learn how to speak more for your frustration versus from your frustration. So again, speaking, the two most common, we talked about the two most common tendencies when people are speaking from their frustration is it's either that loud, colorful extreme up in the stress zone, or like me, when I'm frustrated, the way I speak from my frustration is I don't speak at all.
Yeah, you shut down.
Yeah, I'm just quiet. I'm thinking things.
Not saying
I'm not saying them.
Plotting.
Sometimes. And two most common.
Yeah.
And both of those are highly problematic. They're just different problems. And so learning how to speak for your frustration, that's what's going to be, just like this example with the, who did you say this was?
It's company commander.
Company commander.
Yeah.
Is being real, even being willing to say, Sam, part of me is really frustrated. Or hey, with all this change that we're going through, I can imagine you're frustrated because I'm frustrated. There are ways that we can say that, own that and share that and be real from a place of self-leadership rather than from a place of victim, villain, or martyr.
Yeah. And what's great for folks listening is these kinds of situations happen because the teams that we're normally working with are going through mergers and acquisitions. They may be going through divestitures. They may be going through rapid growth. They may be going through a particularly difficult or challenging target to meet in the business. And those kinds of things are prime spots where people can feel this, ooh, things are shifting.
Well, for sure. And entrepreneurs running 200 miles an hour, working to scale their business quickly, absolutely. That's what they're running into. So that's the first thing for sure for y'all. Well, the first thing is start to recognize your own patterns. And start to pay attention to your team members, because then you can get highly effective in how you're supporting them. The second thing then is to start practicing not covering up. If you're frustrated, angry, annoyed, don't ignore it, don't cover it up. Start to learn how to get that information and how to start speaking for that information instead of from it.
Yeah, good. Let's go into some questions as we're coming into the home stretch on this one, around if a team member comes to a leader and is expressing, or perhaps like you, perhaps not expressing, and the leader is picking up on it though, there's something there. What are some questions that leaders can utilize with themselves or with others?
What I had in my mind is what not to ask. Like, what the hell's wrong with you?
Or stop freaking out as they freak out.
Yeah. definitely a go-to move is, well, what actually is not changing? So if you've got a team member who's coming to you and is using those absolutes, everything's changing, nothing is gonna be the same, or just that dramatic language, and giving you serious indicators that they're feeling out of control. When you ask the question, well, what's not changing? And literally encourage that person to make some notes. In that moment, as their brain is processing that question, what you're doing is helping them to remember they've got far more ability, and they're not accidentally amplifying the stress with those absolutes.
Yeah. What's awesome in what you just said is you said their brain is processing, which by definition means they're not in stress and they're not in autopilot. They're back in that performance zone where, and sometimes I'll even add a little, or encourage leaders to add a little preface of, well, hold on, let's break this down. What's actually not changed? So that way that person knows, oh, we're gonna break this down, and it can help them start to either come down out of stress or come up out of autopilot. And then, like you said, now their brain is really working. They're being more thoughtful about this to go, oh crap, that's a really good question.
Well, the other piece that's really effective in Ivan, what you're modeling, is the level of intensity with that statement or that comment before the question. Again, if you're coming to me and you're using the absolutes and the dramatics, and I'm very calm, and I interact with you this way.
You don't get it.
And for those of you, so that you learn, you accidentally create this polarity. So yes, and it's going to seem like I'm not freaking listening. I don't get it. My head is in the clouds or somewhere else. And so that's the absolute opposite of what's effective. So it's the level of intensity, like, oh, okay, all right. Let's break this down. It's just having a little enthusiasm,
energy.
A little energy around it, and then asking the question. And you're spot on. It's awesome the way that it helps the other person shift their brain activity from the stress zone, like the amygdala, back into their prefrontal cortex.
So that what isn't changing is a great question. What I like to do also is ask the person, hey, so if you're looking at this, what percentage of things are going to be the same? So now they've identified, well, this is the same and this is the same, and they're probably going to start to realize there's a lot more that falls into that category. I like to throw a numerical question mark. Hey, so from 1 to 100%, how much is not changing? So that they can say, oh, actually, 90% of things are not changing. Okay, great. So now we can focus on this 10%.
Yeah, and now they've shifted into their performance zone, and they remember, ooh, I'm in charge more than I realize. I'm in control. My perceived ability is higher, and the perceived challenge has come down.
Yeah.
And so now we can rock and roll.
Awesome. So we can start to land this plane. We've hit on a bunch of things. One is helping people simply be aware of this dynamic of leaders or individuals can feel like things are changing, and what to key in on, the kinds of language to pay attention to, the kind of indicators that may be there that show that people are in the stress zone or in autopilot.
Well, and some questions that you can ask. The other piece is to keep in mind that this notion, people are resistant to change. They're not. They're resistant to losing control. And so if you keep that in mind and you interact with them, using some of the things that we covered, you're off to the races.
Yeah. We've also hit on some of the costs, so now people are aware of, ooh, this is what can happen if I'm not having a healthy discussion, and an honest discussion too, how critical that is to addressing this in a head-on, really no BS manner. Wait, that reminds me of a podcast. I've heard that before. So everyone's got a great set of tools coming out of this that they can immediately begin to apply and use in their everyday performance.
Yeah. Put it to work, and you're leading without the BS.
Yeah. And as we're wrapping, be sure to thank whoever shared this with you.
Yeah.
Someone shared this with you, so encourage you to send them a note. Hey, this is great. I like this. Also, share it with somebody whose success you're invested in, somebody who you want to see succeed. Say, hey, I'm getting some great takeaways from this. Wanted to share this with you.
Oh.
It's as simple as it can be. That feels so good when someone just takes a minute to share something. So with that, Leading Without the BS, podcast number 5.
We'll see you next time.
See ya.